Toyota Hybrid in hot weather, hybrid battery heat damage, Prius in Arizona heat, hybrid cooling system problems. Stick around because at the end, I'm going to show you the diagnostic report from a Prius in Phoenix that lost 40% of its battery capacity in 3 years and the parking habit that killed it. Here's what nobody tells you when you buy a hybrid in Texas, Arizona, Nevada, or anywhere else where summer means 110 degrees in the shade. That battery pack sitting under your back seat or in your trunk, it hates heat. I mean, really hates it. Toyota will tell you their hybrids are designed to handle extreme temperatures, and technically they are. But designed to survive is not the same as designed to thrive. There's a difference between a hybrid that makes it through a Phoenix summer and one that makes it through 10 Phoenix summers without losing half its capacity. I'm talking about battery degradation that costs you fuel economy, power, and eventually thousands of dollars in replacement costs, and most of it happens silently, gradually, while you're just driving around thinking everything's fine. Meanwhile, you're the one who has to park in the sun, pay the cooling costs, and deal with the repair bill when the system finally gives up. So, what's the real story about Toyota hybrids in extreme heat? Not the marketing brochure version, the actual engineering reality of what happens to a battery pack when it lives in a climate that's hotter than the surface of Mercury for 4 months a year. If you've been driving long enough to remember when hybrids were rare and people questioned whether they'd work in real-world conditions, this is for you. Let's cut through the corporate reassurances and talk about heat, batteries, and hybrid longevity the way adults actually need to hear it. What happens to the battery in extreme heat, how Toyota tries to protect it, where the system falls short, and what you can do to actually make your hybrid last in the desert. If you want car content that respects your intelligence, doesn't talk down to you, and actually explains both the engineering and the money side, subscribe. Every car has a story, and we're here to decode it. Let me explain what heat does to a hybrid battery, because this is pure chemistry and physics. From an engineering perspective, a hybrid battery is a collection of cells that store and release energy through chemical reactions. Those reactions happen faster at higher temperatures. That sounds good, right? More power, better performance? Wrong. Faster reactions mean faster degradation. The materials inside the battery break down quicker. The electrolyte evaporates or degrades. The internal resistance increases. The capacity drops. Think of it like cooking. A little heat is good. Too much heat and you're not cooking anymore, you're burning. Toyota hybrids use nickel-metal hydride batteries in most models, lithium-ion in some newer ones. Both types hate sustained high temperatures. The ideal operating range is about 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you get above 100 degrees, degradation accelerates. Above 120 degrees, you're doing serious damage. And here's the problem. In Phoenix, Las Vegas, or El Paso in July, the ambient air temperature is 110 to 115 degrees. Inside a parked car in the sun, 150 to 170 degrees. That battery pack is literally baking. Toyota knows this, so they designed cooling systems to protect the battery, but those systems have limits, and understanding those limits is critical if you live somewhere hot. Let's talk about how Toyota cools the battery, because there are actually 2 different systems depending on which hybrid you have. In most Prius models, the Camry Hybrid, the Highlander Hybrid, the battery is cooled by cabin air. There's a fan that pulls air from the cabin, runs it past the battery cells, and exhausts it. The air comes from inside the car, not outside, because cabin air is cooler when the AC is running. That works great when you're driving with the AC on. The cabin is cool, the battery gets cool air, everything's happy. But what happens when the car is parked in the sun with the AC off? Nothing. The battery just sits there in a 160-degree oven cooking. The cooling system doesn't run when the car is off. There's no protection. Some newer models, like the RAV4 Prime and the Prius Prime, use liquid cooling. The battery has coolant lines running through it, similar to the engine cooling system. This is better because liquid cooling is more efficient and can operate independent of cabin temperature. But even liquid cooling has limits. If the car is parked in extreme heat for hours, the coolant heats up and loses effectiveness. The system is designed to handle normal use, not continuous extreme exposure. Here's what happens in the real world. Someone buys a Camry Hybrid in Phoenix. They park outside at work every day. The car sits in the sun from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. By 3 p.m., the interior is 165 degrees. The battery is soaking in that heat for 8 hours straight, 5 days a week. Over months and years, the battery degrades. The capacity drops from 100% to 90%, then 85%, then 80%. The owner doesn't notice at first because the car still runs fine, but the fuel economy slowly declines. They used to get 52 mpg. Now they're getting 48, then 45. By the time they notice something is wrong, they've already lost a significant chunk of battery capacity. And once it's gone, it's gone. You can't restore degraded battery capacity. You can only replace the battery. I talked to a Toyota service advisor in Scottsdale, Arizona. He told me they see hybrid batteries with significant degradation as early as 60,000 to 80,000 miles on cars that are parked outside in the sun daily. On cars that are garaged or parked in shade, 150,000 to 200,000 miles before seeing the same level of degradation. That's a huge difference. We're talking about the same car, the same battery, the same design. The only variable is heat exposure, and it cuts battery life in half or worse. Let me tell you about the diagnostic report I mentioned. A 2018 Prius in Phoenix with 52,000 miles. The owner brought it in because the fuel economy had dropped from 54 mpg to about 41 mpg over 3 years. The check hybrid system warning had come on twice, but then cleared. The dealer ran a battery capacity test. The battery was at 58% of its original capacity. Not quite dead, but severely degraded. The car was still drivable, but the hybrid system was compensating by running the gas engine more to make up for the weak battery. The cause? The owner worked from home and the car sat outside in the driveway, in direct sun, nearly every day. Arizona sun. No garage, no shade. Just 8 hours a day, baking at 160+ degrees. The replacement cost for a new battery? $3,200 installed. The car was worth maybe $16,000 at that point. Spending $3,200 on a repair for a car worth $16,000 is a tough pill to swallow. The owner was stunned. They'd bought a hybrid specifically for reliability and low operating costs. Nobody at the dealership had warned them that parking in the sun would destroy the battery. Now, let's talk about what you can actually do to protect your hybrid battery in extreme heat, because this isn't a lost cause. You can make these cars last. You just have to be smart about it. First, and most important, park in the shade or in a garage whenever possible. I know that sounds obvious, but people underestimate how much it matters. Shaded parking can keep the interior 20 to 30 degrees cooler than direct sun. That's the difference between 140 degrees and 110 degrees. Over years, that difference is massive for battery longevity. If you can't park in a garage, find shade. Trees, covered parking, the shady side of a building, anything. Even a cheap pop-up carport in your driveway is better than nothing. Second, use a sunshade. Those reflective windshield sunshades actually work. They won't keep the car cool, but they can drop the interior temperature by 10 to 15 degrees. Every degree helps. Third, if your hybrid has been sitting in the heat, let it cool down before driving hard. Start the car, turn on the AC, let it run for a minute before you take off. This gives the battery cooling system time to start working before you ask the battery to deliver power. Fourth, keep your cabin air filter clean. Remember, most Toyota hybrids cool the battery with cabin air. If your cabin filter is clogged with dust and dirt, airflow to the battery is reduced. Check it every 15,000 miles. Replace it if it's dirty. It's a $20 part that protects a $3,000 battery. Fifth, some hybrids have a dedicated battery cooling filter separate from the cabin filter. The Prius has one behind the rear seat. If that filter gets clogged, the battery overheats. Check your owner's manual and replace it according to the service schedule. Most people have no idea it exists. Sixth, monitor your fuel economy. If your hybrid is suddenly getting 10 to 15% worse MPG than it used to and your driving habits haven't changed, that's a warning sign. The battery might be degraded. Get it tested before it gets worse. Seventh, if you're buying a used hybrid in a hot climate, have the battery tested before you buy. Most Toyota dealers can run a capacity test for $100 to $150. If the battery is below 80% capacity, negotiate the price down or walk away. You're inheriting someone else's heat damage.
Consider a battery warranty extension if you're buying new. Toyota offers extended warranties that cover the hybrid battery beyond the standard 8-year, 100,000-mile coverage. In a hot climate, that peace of mind might be worth it. Now, let's address some myths about hybrids in hot weather, because there's a lot of bad information floating around. Myth 1. Hybrids don't work well in extreme heat. False. They work fine. The engine runs, the AC blows cold, you can drive normally. The issue is long-term battery degradation, not immediate failure. Myth 2. You should run the AC on max all the time to keep the battery cool. Partially true. Running the AC does help cool the battery because it cools the cabin air that flows over the battery. But you don't need to freeze yourself. Normal AC use is fine. Myth 3. Letting the car idle with the AC on while parked will protect the battery. This one's debatable. Some people do this. The hybrid system will cycle the engine on and off to run the AC and keep the cabin cool, which does help the battery. But you're burning gas, and it's not great for the engine to idle for long periods. If you're going to be parked in the heat for hours, this might help, but it's not a perfect solution. Myth 4. Lithium-ion batteries handle heat better than nickel-metal hydride. Actually, it's the opposite. Lithium-ion batteries are more sensitive to heat than nickel-metal hydride. That's why liquid cooling is more common in lithium-ion hybrid systems. If you have a plug-in hybrid or a newer model with lithium-ion, heat management is even more critical. Myth 5. Once the battery degrades, you're screwed. Not entirely true. You can replace the battery. Yes, it's expensive, but it's not the end of the car. A new battery restores the car to like-new performance and fuel economy. Some people choose to replace and keep driving. Others sell and move on. It's a financial decision, not a death sentence. Here's something else to consider. Extreme heat doesn't just affect the battery, it stresses the entire hybrid system. The inverter, which converts DC battery power to AC motor power, generates heat. In extreme ambient temperatures, it has to work harder to stay cool. Over time, that can lead to inverter failures, which are even more expensive than battery failures. The electric motor itself has cooling needs. If the cooling system is overwhelmed by extreme heat, the motor will overheat and the car will limit power to protect it. You'll notice the car feeling sluggish or the engine running more than usual. Even the 12-volt battery, which is a regular lead-acid battery, suffers in extreme heat. Heat kills 12-volt batteries faster than cold. If you live in Arizona, expect to replace your 12-volt battery every 3 to 4 years instead of every 5 to 6. Let me talk about the best and worst Toyota hybrids for hot climates based on cooling system design. Best, RAV4 Prime, Prius Prime, any model with liquid-cooled battery. These handle heat better because the cooling is more robust and less dependent on cabin air temperature. Good, 2016 and newer Prius, 2020 and newer Camry Hybrid, Highlander Hybrid. These have improved battery cooling systems compared to earlier models. Okay, but risky, 2010 to 2015 Prius, older Camry Hybrids. These use cabin air cooling and have smaller, less effective cooling fans. In extreme heat, they're more vulnerable to degradation. Worst, first and second gen Prius, 2001 to 2009. The battery cooling on these is minimal. If you live in a hot climate and you're looking at an old Prius, assume the battery is degraded or will be soon. Now let's talk about what happens if you ignore all this advice and just drive your hybrid in the heat without thinking about it. Most likely outcome, the battery slowly degrades over 5 to 7 years, your fuel economy drops gradually, you might not even notice until you compare your current MPG to what you used to get. Eventually, you'll either replace the battery or trade in the car with diminished value because of the weak battery. Worst case scenario, the battery fails completely. The car goes into a limp mode where it runs on the gas engine only. Fuel economy tanks, power is reduced, you get warning lights. The car is technically drivable, but it's awful. You either pay for a new battery or sell the car for scrap value. Best case scenario, you take care of it, park smart, maintain the cooling system, and the battery lasts 150,000 miles or more. It's possible, I've seen it. But it requires discipline and a little bit of luck. Here's the reality check. Toyota hybrids can absolutely work in extreme heat. Thousands of people in Phoenix, Tucson, Las Vegas, and Houston drive them every day without major problems. But extreme heat is the #1 environmental enemy of hybrid batteries. It accelerates degradation faster than anything else. Cold weather gets a lot of attention because it temporarily reduces range and power, but cold is reversible. Heat damage is permanent. If you live in a hot climate and you want a hybrid to last, I'm GearHead Genius. Every car has a story, and together we're going to decode it.